Hello everyone, before we start today's video, if you could all do me a solid and lightly tap the like button, perhaps share the video about and leave a comment. If you are not subscribed, subscribe as well. It would greatly help this channel. Thank you very much. Well, isn't this just fantastic? Captain's log, subdates 22.123.1.3. Final upload of 2022, everyone. We need to finish this year strong. We also need a suitable way of ringing in the new year. I know, let's torture Bork for the Bants, because we've not done that all year. Welcome everyone to the final video of 2022 and the exhibition of stupid people. Today we're going to start with Liver King, and no, I don't mean the recently crowned Liver King, i.e. Joe Rogan, who had taken to posting pictures of his carnivorous Christmas onto Twitter, which in turn found its way onto SB Nation and other various platforms, who felt the need to point out because of his criticisms of OG Liver King, he is the new Liver King. Liver King the Second. No. We are going to be speaking of Liver King the First, Brian Johnson. King Brian, that doesn't sound right. But much like Brian, he's been a very naughty boy and has gotten himself into a lot of hot bother. Over the month of Merry Meggy Moistmas, I spoke about this in a video, talking about how he had essentially conned people, akin to that of the alpha male Jack Murphy, peddling some nonsensical subscription service on how to be an alpha male when he himself was as beta as it got. As a consequence for what Liver King had done, where he had built up this reputation for being so squeaky clean, eating food raw, which really doesn't help with the nutritional release, but also peddling the idea that he has all these pillars of wisdom, and those pillars made him super serial strong. So super serial strong that it was totally 100% natural, just like Dwayne Johnson's. When in reality, unlike Dwayne Johnson of course, who is totally natural, Liver King had to admit he's spent over $11,000 a month on steroids. But it's okay everyone, he had experts help him to maintain it, and he also had issues with back fat. That was the real problem. Liver King did go on to take responsibility for his actions, which I will admit, compared to others who make mistakes, is a brave thing to do. At his age, he should surely be considering a smarter way forward, because he's not getting any younger like Dwayne Johnson, who's totally natural, and so he needs to consider what it's going to do to his body later in life, because shortcuts to look amazeballs aren't really going to benefit him in 10 years' time. And that is what steroids are. Unless used for medical purposes, they are a shortcut. They are a cheat, a hack, and they do in turn do some rather unsavory things to your body and your mind. The most important of which is totally not rage related, but probably a cause of rage when your penis shrinks up to the size of a USB port. Which I guess means for a change in your life, somebody will be docking with you. You lucky slab of meat and back fat. So how does this tie in now? Why do we need to do an update? Because Christopher Altomare of New York is suing the influencer and his companies for false advertising his products and encouraging a dangerous and life-threatening diet to the sum of $25 million, which I've been led to believe is about a month's rent in New York City. In the case of Christopher Altomare, he has claimed that he and his friends would not have bought the product if they knew. One of the main criticisms of the 9 ancestral tenets lifestyle that boasted eating raw liver, spleen, pancreas, hearts and kidneys, because apparently we all need to be venom, was that the diet itself was unsustainable, with many people who had taken up this diet having to purchase Brian's supplements to keep up. Brian touted that his body was peak physical fitness, and I'm sat back thinking, yeah but bitch, you're like several inches below average height. You are, as I've said many times before, a very muscular hobbit. Not as functional, and I still think Samwise Gamgee takes you in a fight, which I guess then makes you lesser hobbit and more a pint-sized orc. Many had speculated that Liver King's brand and business would in turn suffer because of the admission of roids, along with him having to top up his testosterone because his bollocks had stopped working. But Liver King has stated, the Liver King brand has had nothing to do with my business success. My companies were already kicking ass. already successful before the Liver King public figure, growing at 50% year over year and still growing at the same pace. And in truth, I doubt that's going to change. This lawsuit, though, intrigues me, because false advertising is taken quite seriously in some places. Is it false advertising? Yes, it was, because he was the avatar of it. Therefore, he has falsely advertised. Is that false advertising worth $25 million? I don't think it is. But I do think he needs to consider hiring a chef and a proper nutritionalist who will tell you that you get more out of something when it's cooked than when it's raw. Unless you cook it like a Brit, in which case, you may as well just eat cardboard, okay? There's more in it. Just have someone dip their nuts on it for flavour. So next, let's talk about something that I cannot believe is news in the first place. Courtesy of, yes, the Daily Mail, who are very good at posting asinine commentary to subjects that probably don't deserve an article, yet somehow get an article because they really need the clicks to get you to keep going to their site so they can keep posting all the pointless ads, or aids, whichever you prefer really, that if anything just make us not want to go back to that site because of all the aids and or ads, which in turn just leads me to archive the site so I don't have to put up with the ads and or aids. So they post an article titled, "Always wear sun cream," as a quote. Cheeky Sam Smith gives the illusion of being naked in tiny animal print bikini bottoms while posing on a yacht. Bethan Edwards, you should be ashamed of yourself. Who gives a monkeys what someone's doing on Boxing Day? Does anyone really? Really? I want to know how many views this got. It got 1 because I saw it and thought, archive. But really, who on earth posts this and thinks, oh, but Sam Smith could be naked. Oh, I want to see that non-binary cock. It's so sexually suggestive. Part of me had thought perhaps the entire point of the article was to give off the impression of empowering an individual. In reality, I couldn't care less. And I'm pretty sure that applies to the majority of those that read it, or saw it and thought, I'm going to leave a comment because I don't understand how this is an article in the first place. By the way, before I even read some of the article, just so you can understand how pointless this is, I scrolled for well over a minute to try and find the comments that usually feature at the bottom. I promise you, all I got was aids. Or was it ads? You know, it doesn't matter. It's exactly the same thing in the context of what an ad is on the Daily Mail or any news website. So the first part of the article, they are not afraid to put on a skimpy display, and Sam Smith once again left little to the imagination, as they appeared almost naked while soaking up the sun on a lavish yacht on Monday. The non-binary singer, 30, who uses the pronouns they, seemed in good spirits as they shared a gallery of snaps to Instagram while on a holiday in an unknown location. The only thing I know about Sam Smith is Sam Smith is supposedly a singer, and that they did the song for, I think, Spectre, the James Bond movie, and I thought it was a good song. That's all I know about Sam Smith. If Sam Smith is not making new music, why do we care what Sam Smith does on holiday? Why do we care that Sam Smith is wearing that? Like, seriously, I didn't realize Sam Smith was also a stripper. Yet for some peculiar reason, the Daily Mail does this a lot. With artists they seem to be quite fond of, they will make these kind of articles and then have this overlay that says, send us the goss. And I'm half tempted to reply, you guys suck at your jobs. Gossip isn't news. Gossip and shit like this is trivial and pointless, further proving you are completely useless at commenting on what's going on in the news, because you need so desperately to maintain a click quantity ratio of attention and whatever hits and all that nonsense, that you have to churn out this crap to pad out the numbers because no one goes to your site otherwise. I'm intrigued by the fact that your comment section was ended. That part intrigued me. That tells me something quite, well, obvious. And that is that people who left comments you were not overly fond of. No doubt because they think Sam Smith is nothing more than a joke, who looks like literal plump white trash. I'm assuming this is a body positivity thing, but when you look as good as I do, you don't care about that. All I see is target practice. Let's move on to some actual genuine legit news worthy of this video series. Courtesy of Rita Panahi. Why would one shorten their toes? What sort of surgeon would facilitate such lunacy? A retweet of women posting their L's online bracket cult leader, close brackets. I went and found the article. Turns out it's true. I get that cosmetic surgery is a thing, and we all take great issues with not looking like Fulgrim. I really do. As someone that grew up poor I'm very much aware of the damage done for not having shoes that fit, that weren't in some way harming my feet, in the sense that I had quite big feet, yet my shoes had to last years. Therefore, once I grew out of my shoes, my toes started to be pushed in because the shape was wrong, the depth wasn't wide enough, they weren't soft enough underneath, they didn't have arch support, and so on really. It is quite common to have these issues. Hell, it's why they sell things nowadays that help facilitate a healthier foot. But as is often the case, many of us would rather, let's say, wear the impractical. So if there is a way, in any way in fact, of trying to make your feet still look like reflection perfection, or essentially 10 little fulgrims, you're going to do it. Insert a TikToker known as Athena, who last month went under the knife in Miami after struggling with her self-confidence because of her long and crooked toes. Look, there's nothing wrong with being a witch, unless it's Roald Dahl, in which case these are not witch-like feet, but we should dunk you in water just to be safe. She went on to explain, "My toes were a big insecurity for me, especially when I wore heels. It wasn't cute, so I found the solution and took the chance." Before, she had very long toes that could separate and show some rather interesting, moves. You might be able to cross them like your fingers. After, short, stubby, bit strange, not sure why, don't get it. Your toes are still ugly though because your toenails are kind of clapped. Are you sure this was worth it? Now maybe this is a thing akin to guys with hairline. When you start to lose your hair, you get very insecure, guys do. Maybe this is the same thing but on the feet, with the toes and long and crooked. And then I remembered surgery took place in Miami, Florida. Miami, Florida gets mocked for many things. Influencers are one of them. Now a surgeon went on to explain how this works. Toe shortening surgery usually involves either joint resection, arthroplasty, or bone mending fusion, which in turn means that these rather strange looking swellings on each of her toes take up to 6 weeks to subside. Athena has since gone on, 3 weeks later, to show how her feet have recovered in that time, many pointing out that she has gremlin feet. And there's a point to that. Here's Gizmo's feet. Here's your feet. I'm starting to see the, In fact, I'd argue your feet were gremlin-like before and after. So, was it really worth it? I also get the joke of people screaming Ravenclaw at you. As a point that I want to raise, because I'm not always going to be a dick, I get that we want to look as good as we can in things that we think we'd look good in. Why is it though that you are so desperate to try and look good in something that you don't look good in, that you would change your body to look good in something, instead of enhancing what you look good in by picking the right things to look good in? We all have limitations, except for me of course. I look good in literally everything, especially hoodies, jeans, trainers, and suits. And of course this Moistlander attire. So the final subject I'd like to talk about today concerns a man-child by the name of Ellishka. Ellishka had broken into someone's home. Ellishka is a 51-year-old man from Watford. He kicked his way through an external porch, attacking the inhabitants of the home, leaving them with severe wounds to their hands, head, ear, along with one of them suffering from a bleed on the brain. Ellishka then moved to another room and attacked the other inhabitant, leaving that person with bruising on their back. After this attack, Ellishka drove away, which allowed one of them the opportunity, the victims, to call the emergency services. The police then arrested Ellishka in his car near Woodstock, Oxfordshire. Later on, being interviewed by the police, he gave vague and incoherent responses, neither denying or admitting that he had conducted or committed these attacks. On October the 12th, Ellishka pled guilty to wounding with intent, along with beating. This sounds very Halls of Injustice worthy, doesn't it? Until you get to the victims part and you realise this is genuinely man-child territory. The victims were his parents. His father, Nicholas Clayton, 85, and his mother, Julia Clayton, 82. Why did he break in, you ask? And this is the man-child part. Ellishka claimed to resent his parents because they sent him to boarding school as a child. Owing to the resentment of this, he also subjected his parents to decades of emotional and financial abuse. This was confirmed by the police when they conducted their investigation into what motivated Ellishka to do this. A 40-year grudge over being sent to a boarding school culminated in him beating his elderly parents. Ed was adamant that his parents needed to compensate him for his suffering while he studied at an all-boys school in the 80s. and the confirmation that he had manipulated them financially was that his parents agreed to a £250,000 equity release on their £1.2 million home to appease him. I hope when they pass away they leave you nothing, and I hope the shame that you feel eats you up for the remainder of your years. How dare you take advantage of those that you are supposed to care about the most, or are supposed to care about you the most. No one is supposed to be afraid of their family. When you do something wrong to them, you right the wrong. You don't shift the goalpost and blame something else. The original apology is the only thing that matters, and that is what you owe your family. Although, as I've often learned in more recent years, some people are too stupid to know when to say sorry. Apparently, the 5-letter word is actually a 4-letter word. Oh well, be a man-child. I hope you're homeless, you silly little hobo. Thanks for being here, everyone. Have a lovely new year. See you on Monday.